What's up, people? So, here today, I'm going to be doing the third episode of High Minds, and this is going to be a cannabis podcast that is going to also be talking about a few different topics, such as martial arts, many more different things, to be honest. So, let's not box us into anything just yet. We're going to be mainly talking about cannabis, though, so that's what people are probably going to be coming here for. So, one of the main topics that we will be covering today is why some stuff is just priced at the price that it's at. There's stuff that is extremely expensive right now. Some people aren't really sure why it's that expensive, and I have some theories on all of it. But um, before we get to that, let's talk about the fights that are going to be happening this weekend. We have Tom Aspinall against Sergey Pavlovich. Definitely fucked that part up, but this is going to be very interesting. This is going to be a heavyweight fight that is not going to be similar to many others. And the reason why is because Tom Aspinall is in it. Tom Aspinall is someone who is able to move his feet very, very well, and he's able to actually get away from shots very well. Actually, in the fights that I've seen him in, I actually haven't seen him take any real damage at all that I can remember. I can't remember him taking any real damage. So, it's going to be very interesting. This is going to be someone that, if he gets touched by Sergey, he's going to sleep. It's just how it's going to be. So, this is going to be very interesting. I'm probably one sided. I think it's going to be Tom Aspinall, and a lot of other people think that Sergey is going to put him out because of his power. But my honest opinion is the reason why Tom Aspinall is going to win and is going to do it in a very, very appealing fashion is because of his footwork. I think that's a major advantage for him. So that is definitely going to be an interesting one. But we also get to see Yuri versus Alex Pereira. Yuri Prohashka is someone who is just a wild man. This guy is someone who trains out in the woods. He is just an animal. He is someone who is very interesting though. He is someone who definitely has a very, very good shot at putting Alex Pereira's lights out, and it's kind of a similar reason to why Tom Aspinall has a good shot at winning is solely off his footwork and his unorthodox style. So I definitely think that Yuri versus Alex is actually probably going to be way more interesting than Tom Aspinall versus Sergey. But honestly, I really do think that this one, Yuri versus Alex Pereira, is going to be it's going to be a war. It's going to be something that is just going to be a bloody mess, to be honest. I can't imagine this one ends without a knockout. And we see that Alex Pereira is honestly a very calculated, very calm killer. So he's going to be stalking. He's going to be waiting for that opportunity. But if you give Yuri too much room, if you give him too much chances to set stuff up, then he will set up these weird openings. And it's very possible that Alex might catch him trying to set one of those openings up. But it's very possible that Yuri catches him with one of those weird shots and it's just game over. So that one's going to be very interesting. I'm very hyped up for these fights this weekend. But before we move on to the week content, let me cover one more fight. This fight is actually very interesting because it kind of ties into the cannabis world in some ways, kind of ties into shrooms a lot more. But this is going to be Sean O'Malley versus Chito Vera. This one is very interesting because both of these fighters actually are taking mushrooms in preparation for the fight. They're microdosing shrooms. This is something that Sean O'Malley has done throughout his career already, and it has developed him to the level that he's at. But Chito Vera is actually going to be doing it mainly because of Sean O'Malley. And the reason I know this is because in the Joe Rogan episode with Sean O'Malley, it was probably a slip up, but the coach of Sean O'Malley, um, the name's not coming to my brain. I don't know. it's not really important, but he slipped up and he mentioned that Cheeto is actually taking them and that Dana told him. So, very interesting in the bigger picture. This is something that I have actually experienced. I like microdosing and I like training. It is probably sounding crazy to a lot of people, but it helps. It helps a lot. It is actually something that actually will make you move a lot more calculated, and overall it is definitely something that will take that edge off in the anxiety department. A lot of people, when they're fighting or sparring or maybe even training, they get very anxious and they get in their own heads. But when you microdose and you actually train, it goes away for some reason. It's a weird situation. It's weird to explain, but definitely not necessarily something I'm recommending. Definitely not recommending it to anyone that's in a illegal state for sure. But it's very interesting to see that they both are taking it in preparation for this fight. So, what do I think about this fight? What do I think who's gonna actually win? I think Chito Vera is actually gonna win. I think that he honestly is someone who not only is mentally and psychologically just very in tune for the fights, but he is also just someone who will not stop until he finds that win. So he's someone that's going to keep coming forward, and he's actually very good with his defense as well. So I think that he probably will pull it off if it goes to decision. But as we know, Sean O'Malley could knock him out at any moment. So it's going to be a very fun one to watch. But let's move on to the weed content. Um, the main reason, the main thing I wanted to talk about today is actually why different stuff is priced at certain rates. There's some stuff that is bottom of the barrel and people understand why it's meant to be there. But then there's some stuff that is at the top of the shelves and some people question why. But then there's some other stuff that's at the top of the shelf and people will understand why. So at the end of the day, what actually makes something worth more? Is it just the branding? Is it just the demand for that brand? Or is it the product itself? Is it the yields that that product has? Is it the actual quality or the way it's grown? In my opinion, I would say it's the last three that I said. It's the quality, it's the way it's grown, and it is the yield. Because if it's yielding a small amount, and what a yield means is a plant, each plant will be able to grow a certain amount. This amount of bud will come off of this plant gets this amount, and usually different strains yield different certain amounts. So, what this means in the bigger picture is the market at the moment understands that some of this candy yields a lot, and it's also stuff that tastes kind of good, appears to be kind of good, so they can grow it in mass production and sell it in mass production. It's this weird game that they're playing, but the way that they're actually getting higher tickets and that they're able to sell their stuff for higher prices is because they're throwing it into different rappers' hands or they're packaging it up in a bag that is somewhat fancy, somewhat appealing, something that you would want to maybe like throw on your wall or maybe even just collect as like a collector's item. Some of this stuff is stuff that people will actually collect. So it's building a demand in a certain other way besides the quality, which is taking away from the people who are actually selling quality, but they're only selling it in just a jar like this. Let's say like someone just has a jar like this, but It doesn't have any sticker on it. There's no stickers. It's just in a jar like this. The people can't necessarily tell you it's worth this certain amount because they haven't invested into the branding, which I might be losing myself at the moment. I might be going a little bit off track. Basically, to sum up what I'm trying to say and get back on track and like say this properly is there definitely is certain weed that is more valuable. The flower that yields less, the flower that is more rare, the stuff that comes from a certain grower who is much more harder to access, like a NorCal Nemo. Someone like him, he's charging $1,000 per zip, which I don't see a lot of people really complaining about it. The people that complain about it usually just aren't financially in the position to afford it. So from what I've seen, people do enjoy it. But the reason why he's able to charge that is because he's using stuff that using genetics that not a lot of people can even access at all. And on top of that, he's also growing it in a way where it's if it's not good, he's not going to sell you it. It's you're only getting served the best of the best, which is quality control. When you have real quality control on a brand and when you really are doing your brand properly, then you can actually charge those high tickets. But when you're just investing into a package, when you're just investing into a Mylar package or a maybe a weird jar that looks cool, then you're just playing your customer. And in the end of the day, they will find something that is much better and they'll see that your stuff is much worse. And I don't think that's a smart move to go with. So whether you're a brand or a consumer, whoever's listening to this at the moment, I know no one is technically live at the moment, but I understand that this is a process. I know that just like building a real brand, you would have to go through the trials and tribulations of not having someone support you at this moment, not having it at that moment. You can't just fake it and make it. So, what I'm trying to say is there is a reason why stuff is expensive, and just because you got played once, just because you got played twice, doesn't mean you should just quit there. And if you do quit there, that's on you. So, I definitely would say there's a reason why candy is making people think that there's certain levels to this, and people haven't even seen the best of the best yet because it hasn't came back yet. There's definitely going to be some really high end flour coming back, and I'm happy to see it. I'm definitely happy to see the changes throughout the past year. But at this point, I definitely hope that making sense to everyone. I feel as if I kind of am rambling, but I definitely think that this topic is something that people need to touch on. People are kind of avoiding it. So realistically, there is a lot of reasons why stuff is not worth this price, but there's a lot of reasons why stuff is worth that price and maybe even more. You know what I mean? So don't price yourself out of getting something that's actually really worth it. Do your research. You know what I'm saying? In the bigger picture, there is a lot of growers out here that are seeing the price rates and they are taking advantage of it, but there are other ones that are actually really set on that price and they need that price because they're throwing away other batches that are just no good, which is something that everyone should respect. If people are actually throwing stuff away or doing other stuff with it that isn't associated with the brand, then that's more respectable. But with all this being said, I definitely feel like this was kind of a weird topic, but it's something that needs to be talked on, as I mentioned. So I do appreciate everyone. This is gonna wrap it up for the third episode. Honestly, kind of was about weed, kind of was just all over the place, but this is definitely a process. As I said before, this is a process. You can't fake it. You can't just scheme the system. So you guys are gonna watch. You guys, if you follow along from the beginning, you'll see the whole process. I'm not gonna cheat the code. I'm gonna really do it proper. So much respect, much love to anyone that watches, and stay blessed.